Evening, Jill. Oh man, we are out of the gate. So here's the thing. So our guest tonight, Taylor Siebert, says, "Hey, let's chime in on the YouTube comments." So former guest Tim Holes, good friend of Taylor's, chimes in. Let's go. Totally screws up my intro, and I get all excited. I'm like the horse that's like super excited getting in the gate, and then my gate won't open. Or I trip over it because I'm an idiot.
It doesn't take much to trip us up.
No, no, it doesn't. So, hey, thanks, Tim. For the rest of you, welcome to episode 91. We are in the single digits on our way to triple digits.
Oops.
Yeah.
Oh,
all right.
This is going well.
What? Now what happened?
Well, I was messing up on this. I had no. It's fine. We're good. Let's go. Let's do this. Restart.
Hey, Tim, glad you could join us. Thanks for chiming in. Yeah, my name is Josh Allen. My wife is not home right now, and I have all 4 kids with me. I didn't tell you that, Devin.
Impressive.
Yeah, the 3 oldest ones should be in bed. The 2-year-old is on the iPad because that will give her the most amount of recurring video that she can watch. So, and I'm still broadcasting in HD. So, knock on wood, things are going well with that 100 meg internet. One beautiful wife that is out to supper with a good friend of hers, and 4 wonderful kids.
Oh,
Devin?
I will say I am also Sam's wife tonight, but my children are able to kind of take care of themselves a little more than yours. Maybe they're a little older, but
they better be able to.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we were leaving them home alone sometimes, so if they're not, I don't know what's going on. Nothing has burned down. No one has gotten injured, so we've been good so far.
Good night.
Devin Schoening, Council Bluffs, Iowa. Work for the Council Bluffs schools. Like I said, Claire and Grace, they're 12 and 14, kind of just hanging out tonight. Share a good story about one of them here in just a bit. And my wonderful wife, Erin, is off working out tonight, which is something I probably should be doing as well. But this sounded like more fun tonight, so I'm doing this.
There's a lot of things that sound more fun than working out. I'm just glad that Dad's and Ed is one of them. As yes. I just totally jacked up a tweet. Man, Taylor's going to be excited that he's going to be on. He's chiming in on the comments already.
Going to be great.
May back out. His internet may go down about the time that we invite him. If you want to chime in with the show and tell us how awesome we are, feel free to tweet at us at Dads and Ed. You can use the hashtag Dads and Ed at any time. Don't know if you read Eric Ewald, former guest. He tweets out his blog post on the hashtag, which is great, along with Dad's Principles and all those other fantastic ones. If you missed part of the show, feel free to check out our website, dadsanded.com. You can rewatch this video because who wouldn't want to do that? Or you can subscribe in iTunes or Google Play by just doing a little search for Dads in Ed. Also, proud member of the Education Podcast Network. Be sure to check them out at edupodcastnetwork.com. Actually, the boss man, Chris Nessie, just posted one about using podcasts in education on his not too long ago. So, anyway, so water cooler, as you know, this is a rare Thursday night show for us. We hardly ever are on Thursday night, and that is because Wednesday was Halloween. So I don't know about you. I am very lucky that my nephews come over and they don't like coconut flavored candy. And so I get all of the Almond Joy delivered to me, which is fantastic. Wow. And I know we were talking beforehand, you don't get that opportunity anymore.
Not anymore. So we just buy extra bags of candy.
That's true.
Yeah, the girls, I mean, they don't trick or treat. Neither one of them did this year. Claire did for just a bit last year, not very long at all. She prefers to be the planner and the hander-outer of candy. So she had everything. As soon as she got home, she had the bowl out. She had the candy in. She had her chair set up out front since it was such a nice night last night that we were able to be outside. And yeah, so she just kind of took that over. But you know, I was telling you before a show, you never know it's the last time until it's the last time, and not having to, not going out trick or treating and not having that candy is, kind of a bummer.
Yeah, we actually do it in shifts. My wife takes all the kids out with her sister for just a little bit, just kind of goes around the block, and I take the big kids around.
Yeah.
And actually, we stopped by one of my friend's house, or one of my son's friend's house. And of course, this is later in the night. Our neighborhood is pretty strict. Like 6 to 8 p.m. is the time that you are allowed to go. Like the whole neighborhood's out during that time.
Yeah.
So the mom, so they got the bucket. They got the reserve candy in the back, but they got the bucket of candy. We got 4 kids. They literally, she dumps like all of that candy into our kids' buckets.
Yeah.
So we are like plumb full.
That's nice.
We're doing good.
It's fun. You know, one of the things that's fun about handing out too is we started a few years ago. We had, what do we have? We had 255 people last night, 255 trick-or-treaters. And we started doing a few years ago where the 100th person to come to our house gets a full bag of candy. We just put a whole bag in their bucket. So we actually got to do that twice last night. The 200th person also got a full bag of candy. So it's always kind of fun to, and we make a big deal of it. They come up like, you're the 100th person. Here's a whole bag of candy. And
do you really keep track of it, or is it just
yeah, so
you're cute?
We do. We downloaded a counter app on the phone last night. So we were just counting every time somebody popped in. So yeah, it's pretty accurate. The only way I would change this is if the 100th person is like a teenage kid who isn't dressed up, they're not getting a full bag of candy.
Yeah, you know, that I can understand that. We did not have any of those last night. Everybody was appropriately dressed.
A couple.
Who was? Oh, one of the first ones to stop by. A little girl that lives down the street. She was a hot air balloon. Like they had the helium. She is like in the basket, like walking. But they had the helium balloon. It was impressive.
Wow, that is good. That is good. I did not. I'm trying to think back to anything I saw that was great. I don't remember seeing any that were great.
Yeah.
I did find myself. You know, we shared a post from Ken Shelton a couple days ago about cultural appropriation and appreciation. I did find myself every time somebody walked by thinking about cultural appropriation, which is probably a good thing. But it was just interesting. I kept thinking, kept looking at Aaron saying, "What do you think about that one? Like, is that okay? Should they be doing that?" So it's probably good. And I'm kind of excited in a couple weeks to maybe talk to Ken a little bit more about some of those things when we have him on the show. But I was at least aware of it last night as I was handing out candy.
Good. All right. Well, if you had a fantastic costume, I did see Jesse Lubinsky, former guest. They all went as Tom Cruise from different movies, which I thought was pretty creative.
That one was good.
Trying to think of some other good ones that I had seen. It is, creativity is pretty amazing. We don't, the adults in our family do not dress up.
Kids love it. You dress up? Have you ever dressed? You a dresser upper?
No, the only time I have ever dressed up, my wife and I went. Since I've been married, probably since high school, was my wife and I went to a Halloween party, and we went as each other.
Okay.
And so my wife stays home, and so I wore sweats and a t-shirt, and had like a diaper bag, and she had like a button-up shirt, and like I think she had a sweater on also. And carried our laptop bag around. That's the last time I dressed up.
I'm not a dresser upper. And rarely, I didn't really even like it as a kid. I was telling a story the other day that's, you know, I can remember back to a couple times where my mom kind of made me dress up, and I was crying like, I don't want to be a scarecrow. So I did that, but then people are always shocked. They'll come here and on the refrigerator at our house, there's a picture of Aaron and I in costume, and we went all out. It was a giant. I was wearing a giant chicken costume. I was like Foghorn Leghorn is essentially what happened, and she was a giant carrot. I'm not really sure why. I thought that was funny at the time, but people were like, "Is that you?" I'm like, yeah. That for one time, I dressed up and never.
I wouldn't mind the dinosaur costume. I think those are pretty funny.
They're kind of clever.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are kind of clever. But
all right. So that's our Halloween stories for the year. I'm so glad that holiday only comes once a year. We have plenty of candy to last us to next Halloween.
Yeah, no doubt.
My dad moment of the week is really interesting because my phone just rang and it is part of it. So we went to do family pictures on Sunday because, you know, kids grow and gotta take new pictures. And the venue that we were at is an outdoor park next to a fairly busy street, and it was packed full of people because Sunday was a beautiful day, take pictures. It was so busy that the parking lot was full, so we parked on this little side road. We go to take our pictures, and we come back, and someone had broken into our van. They had taken a rock and thrown it through the back window and grabbed just a bag that was hanging there. And they did it to one other car that was there. The irony, I guess, is that they grabbed a bag full of kids' books. That's the only thing they took. And actually, from the other car, they got a lady's purse, but the billfold had fallen out as they grabbed it out of the car. So let's see, that was Sunday. So of course, we called the police. We had to file a report. They actually just called back. They called back earlier today, and I missed it, and just called back now. I'm not sure what they're really going to do. I doubt they're going to refund the $400 for the window that we paid for.
Right.
But it was a really, of course, all the kids were there. Fortunately, we had two cars, so the kids didn't have to ride in that car on the way home.
Right.
I could just drive it. But we had a really good conversation about, it's not a big deal. It's a window. It could be a lot worse. They didn't get rid of anything that we can't replace. I mean, it was a custom bag, so hopefully their last name starts with A as well. But we just talked with kids about, that happens. Those people are quick. They did it when there were hundreds of people around and a busy street, and that's why you got to take your stuff with you. My wife had her purse with her. So it's crazy. So we got a new window this week.
It's still amazing to me that stuff happens as often as it does. Happened to Aaron and I a couple of years ago. We were on a bike ride. Same deal. I mean, got nothing, Well, right. I shouldn't say got nothing. She happened to leave her wedding ring in her purse. She took it off before we went for the bike ride. And so it was in there, which that's not good, obviously. I shouldn't say nothing. It's not nothing at all.
Right. But
nothing.
Again, it could be.
Yeah.
You don't have to do you don't have to worry about identity theft with a ring or.
Right. Exactly.
All that kind of stuff. So anyway, not exactly a happy dory or hunky dory one, but.
No.
Oh, well.
Not good. My dad moment of the week is kind of important. I've got a big announcement. I am a grandfather.
I did not know that.
For the next 4 days. Gracie has parenting class.
I did know this. Dang it, you had me. I was really I'm like, that's when you gotta prep me for that one. I love your girls. They're great.
See if I can catch you off guard tonight. But
yeah.
So she has, as part of her parenting class, they have the child that they bring home and keep with them for 4 or 5 days. She got it Wednesday. She takes it back to school Monday. And it's one of those things where I think the only reason she wanted to take the class is so that she could have this baby for a few days. And so I pick her up from school that day, and she's got to put the car seat in the back, and we're going places. She's got to take that baby with her, and it cries. And so the great thing about it is, so apparently when it cries, you have to you have this wristband on, and you kind of wave it in front. It's kind of like it identifies that you're trying to take care of it, right? And so we're driving home. This thing has been in the car literally for maybe 10 minutes, and it starts crying in the back. And so she scurries to the back seat while we're driving, and she's trying to soothe it. She's trying to, and it won't stop crying, and she's trying to feed it. It doesn't want to eat. She's trying to change the diaper. It doesn't want that changed. And what she had figured out is that she had not swiped her little wristband that said, "Oh, it's me. It's mom." So yeah, we have that, and Claire was excited and nervous all at the same time. So her room was kind of down the hallway from Grace's, and so Claire went down and got a crib that she had for a doll a long time ago and brought it up. So that's where it's sleeping. And Claire asked last night, "Can I sleep on your guys' floor?" And we're like, "Why? Why would you want to sleep on your floor?" She said, "That baby wakes me up in the middle of the night. I'm not going to be happy." I said, "I think it'll be okay." Yeah.
I even saw the picture that, I don't know if it was you or Aaron or her posted. Like, I shouldn't have fallen for that, but I totally did.
The great thing is, you feel like, because she's this 14-year-old girl carrying around this baby in a car seat, we feel like we have to like constantly tell people, even strangers, it's a fake baby. It's not real. Like, she does not have a real baby. This is a fake baby. We had somebody come up last night. It was kind of dark out when we were handing out candy, and we were outside, and Gracie was holding the baby. And somebody came up, and a little kid came up and like touched the baby, and the mom says, "Oh no, don't touch that baby." And we were like, "It is fake. Like, you do not have to worry. That is not a real baby." So yeah, it's gonna be fun around here for a few days.
That is fantastic. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's part of the show where we get a little bit smarter. Tonight, we are pleased to be joined by Taylor Siebert, founder of Striv TV and co-founder of Class Intercom. Taylor's appearance today is sponsored by Starbucks. When Taylor needs to change the world, or just on days that the sun comes up, he starts his day at Starbucks. You should too. Taylor, welcome to the show.
You guys, I have nothing more to add to this show.
Do you know that I actually spend more time like coming up with the fake advertisement than we do with the whole rest of the show?
I would do the same thing if I were you.
It's really the only thing we can do.
Right. The rest of whatever I say, no one cares about. No. That was it.
I really think like when people come on the show, they don't like remember the conversations we have, but if I do a good job, they remember who their advertiser was.
They do remember their fake sponsor.
Who would never ever sponsor our show, by the way.
Big day tomorrow. You can get a red cup if you get a holiday drink at Starbucks tomorrow.
Already?
Wow.
And look at that, I just plugged them again.
Save the turkey, man.
Like a reusable cup. So
they really might sponsor us now. We're like doing actual work for them.
That was an actual advertisement. #ad.
It's true. We need to make sure that we include that. Free #free ad.
Yeah, right.
#, but we'll take money. So, Taylor, after all that, tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah. So, I am from Henderson, Nebraska. I'm in my basement here. I do not have a desk or anything fancy, and I didn't want to go to my office. My contacts are drying out on me because I didn't wear my glasses. But born and raised here, small town kid, and enjoyed it, but wanted to get the heck out of Henderson. Never wanted to come back. And of course, when you think that, that's you come back, right? And start a business. So that's what I did. I graduated in 2003 from Heartland Community Schools and wanted to play athletics, and had an opportunity to do that at Doane College, which I was very thankful for. Played some hoops up there, and thankfully met my wife there as well. Met her my freshman year, and then we ended up getting engaged my junior year. And so we decided to get married right out of college and move out to Colorado. And I got a job just kind of doing sales, and really learned a lot, and learned that I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. And just had this burning desire to want to start a business or start something on my own. And tried lots of different things. I ended up getting in the heating and air conditioning business and blowing insulation in attics. And I always tell kids, I say, look at me. Do I look like someone that can crawl around in attics? And they all shake their heads. No, I've got huge tree trunk legs. And it was a great learning experience. I learned how to sell, learned how to serve. I did a talk down in at Thayer Central today, or Deschler, with a couple of schools. And I talked about serving, how I learned to serve, to work hard, and to connect and network. And I've taken those kind of principles, and nothing I learned in school, right? I was a business major, marketing and management, have a ton of good friends that were in that. And we all laugh about our times and the things nothing that we learned in college. But I did have an entrepreneurship class that was a key moment in kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. And so the teacher said, "Hey, you can do whatever you want." And so I got there were only 3 of us in the class. And I convinced them that we would go do a marketing plan for our local golf course back in my hometown. And so it was Henderson Municipal Golf Course, worst golf course name ever, back in 2007. And my dad kind of helped me a little bit, and we gave them some ideas, and they actually implemented it. We gave them a new name. And so that's when I was like, hey, I've kind of got a passion for this marketing thing. And then social media, I signed up for Twitter back in like 2007, I think, in college. And so just kind of developed this passion to create content. Begged my parents for a white MacBook, if you guys remember those, back in 2007. The iPhone came out shortly after that.
Hey,
and
real quick,
it.
Hold on.
Yeah.
The white MacBook is what started Dads and Ed. That was what we
serious?
started the show on.
Yeah.
It was 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back and listen to the first episodes, it's pretty between that and my 15 meg internet. That's why those are terrible. I don't really have a great excuse now for why we're terrible, but that's what we blame the early shows on.
The content was amazing. That dang computer.
If you could have heard it.
Yeah, that's a key component to a podcast. But I got that laptop because of GarageBand and iMovie. That's why I wanted to create. And so I got my buddies around. We created a podcast when podcasts weren't cool back in 2007. My mom listened to it, I think. I did a radio show with a friend of mine called, oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot the name. Something Tupac and Hard Rock and something. It was a really creative name. I'm going to tweet it. I've tweeted it before, but so that was a lot of fun. I just like had this passion to create stuff, and then people kind of said, "Hey, this is kind of funny and cool or whatever." Not cool, but engaging or they enjoyed it, and so I kind of got that feedback loop from people, and so that kind of was a big piece of when I look back, I was like, oh, this makes sense of what I'm doing now. I'm kind of doing those same things, and I've just continued to get repetitions in doing that. And we'll talk about Striv and Class Intercom and how those have kind of formed over the years of my journey.
So I'm curious that, as we hear people talking, I was just in New York a couple of weeks ago with a group of folks from school districts around the country, about 5 or 6 different districts that we do some work together. And I'm always amazed at people who have kind of this strange journey to get to wherever it is that they end up, right? So they have all of this kind of plethora of experiences in their history that don't really have any sort of relation to each other. But when they look back on it, they're like, oh, this is what I learned from that thing. And I feel like my path was kind of linear, right? I mean, it doesn't have some of those. Do you think that all of those different experiences have kind of like formed part of your, the way you do the work you do now?
No one has ever said that, but that is exactly my life. I had no idea I was going to be an entrepreneur. I always tell students when I go into classes, what I do now didn't exist. I saw a stat today that Don Wettrick posted from a CNBC article that 65% of primary school students today won't, when they get out, won't have a job that exists today.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true for me as well. I didn't invent streaming, but I took a technology and built a business around internet. But yeah, I was selling to home buyers, security systems and central vacuum and speaker wire and stuff like that. But I learned how to serve, and then I did training. I trained heating and air conditioning contractors how to blow insulation in attics. And then I took that training, and I wanted to be a teacher and a coach, but decided to go the business route and put those together. But I had no idea this was going to be a part of the purpose in my life, to be in education and business and entrepreneurs and create content, for everything that we do.
Right. And I'm fascinated by that. I was another kind of from New York. I was out walking around one night with one of the guys who was there, and he now works for, was one of the people who created Hapara. But in his background, he was somebody who worked in aerospace and launched rockets and, you know, built different computing platforms. And now he's in the education realm. And it was just like, I bet for 3 hours as we walked around New York at night, he did not stop talking, which was great. I asked the question, like, how did you get to where you are? And he had this 3-hour story about all of it. I was just fascinated by all of the little, like how he kind of matriculated from the time he came out of high school where he wanted to fly rockets, to how he is where he is at now, where he's done all this work for Google and he's created Apara. And it was just this kind of fascinating 3 hours of, man, that's how stories, it was a great story, right? Like an amazing chain of events that got him to that point. And I'm like, that's like a regret. Like, I wish I would have done some of those things, you know, even though they weren't connected to what I do now. I feel like I missed something in doing that.
And that's okay. I think that's cool, you know, but it is fun. You know, I don't think of my story being special. I got to tell kids, and I publicly put it on my vlog. I got an 18 on my ACT twice, right? So I'm glad I'm not teaching kids. They probably wouldn't have let me in. If I would have got an education, I probably would have failed college. I got through business. I had to work really hard to be average at school, right? That's so.
Right.
But what's cool when you get out of this education world, far as being in educate, not teaching, but like far as K through 12 and college, is this whole world of connecting with people and getting people that help your weaknesses, and you can focus on your strengths, right? And so I'm big on self-awareness. I'm a Gary V fan, and he talks about that all the time, right? Like knowing who you are. And I think that's huge for kids now, especially with so many distractions and comparing yourself to other people online.
Right. That's very cool.
Do you want to? I noticed that our friend Tim was smart enough to remember he probably still subscribes and just pulled up his podcast app.
Yes. Thank you, Tim. Tupac and a little Christian rock. Yes.
Nice.
Contradicted ourselves there. I see Rob Lindquist. I got a great screenshot of me itching my hair on Twitter. Thanks, Rob.
We can always count on Rob.
Here, I'll do it again, Rob. Take a picture.
So I do want to talk a little bit of philosophy, but for those that are listening that aren't as familiar with you, talk a little bit about the idea for Striv, what that is, and then transition a little bit into how Class Intercom came about. We have talked about both of those, you know, for quite a bit over the years, highlighting some of the things that you've been doing, but give us your perspective for those two things.
Yeah, so Striv came out of a website that I started here in Henderson when I moved back in 2010, and that desire and passion to create content when we moved back really came to fruition. It was like, hey, we started a blog for our local community, because our newspaper really wasn't doing justice to what I thought. And I actually wanted to like print a magazine. And my dad, who's a business owner, owns his own insurance business. My mom started her own little embroidery business. My grandpa started his own business. So I realized, hey, this is kind of in me, or kind of around me. I've got this great support group. And so he said, why would you spend all this money? We were going to buy a big, huge copier and all this overhead. And he said, you're on Facebook all the time and on social media. Why don't you start something online? And I was like, yeah, why don't we just start a website? So I don't always tell that story, that my dad, and I remember he told me like over Thanksgiving or something like that, in our pantry at their house. Like I remember the exact moment he told me that. And so the rest was history. Do you guys remember Posterous?
Yeah.
Josh, you remember
I had a blog there. Yeah.
I know you did. So they got bought by someone, but that's where I started. Heartlandbee.com was on Posterous.
That was the first place where you could email your posts.
Yep. Yeah, it was a very innovative platform. I hadn't dived into WordPress yet, and I think maybe Tumblr was around, but I chose Posterous, and that was a mess to transfer all of our old posts out of there into WordPress when we did transition. But just started writing stories. I'm a horrible writer. My mom wrote all my papers in high school, and I married someone that could write. So she would write all the game recaps and all the stories. I would come up with the ideas for them, and she would actually execute. And I would go play around and take a picture, and just like capturing content and making videos and iMovie and stuff. So through that, I was like always trying to innovate that blog, and we got it on WordPress. We started getting a couple sponsors, and I just saw, hey, there's this cool technology, live streaming. Like, how cool would it be if we could live video stream? And I can't remember if I saw some schools, but just kind of was, very fascinated with this technology to be able to stream school events. So I started doing it through Ustream, and just discovered all the, ads that popped up. It was a very bad user experience, and had some ads pop up during event that were not related to the school, and there was nobody to contact. And so went on this kind of journey and learned all the equipment and what we needed to do. And so that was in the fall of 2010 or 11. And a mentor of mine who I kind of connected with, John Rublet, who's still with us today, had a brother that worked for a company that could provide us bandwidth so we could have our own streaming provider, and we could kind of white label it. And so that was really just all these kind of pieces, and God put those people in my life to kind of formulate this. And he had some great experience. He's a lawyer. He's got just kind of a wealth. He's just a lot of connections, and he helped me out a lot. If John hadn't been a part of the story, and my dad too, Striv would not exist today. And so we just someone to bounce ideas off and cast vision and stuff like that. So we went and pitched the Southern Nebraska Conference, which is where Brandon Mowinkle and at Milford, and said, hey, went to the superintendent at my school. I had gone to him and said, hey, would you pay me to stream all the games? This is before Striv. And he said, yeah. And so then in February 2012, we streamed this conference basketball tournament. And I love to tell this story because I thought every superintendent was going to call me the Monday after that basketball tournament, and no one called. And I was like, this was our debut, our launch, and we had both gyms streaming, and we had announcers. I got some kids from Doane that didn't know they announced, and got kids rounded up, and no one called. And I was like, oh crap, like, how am I going to make this work? We had just had Beckett, our son, in December, and started a business, in February. Officially is when Striv started in February 2012. So I realized that it's a horrible time to start a business in education, which we later did with Class Intercom, which is funny, in the spring. But this was just not a great time. So I didn't get any meetings with any schools until that spring or that summer. And so just grinded, grassroots, serving. I got the idea from the superintendent from Heartland. I said, how am I going to, because I was going to all the games, how am I going to get to all these games at all these schools? I realized this was a problem for a lot of schools. They kept coming up to me and saying, hey, how could we stream our games? And I said, hey, I'm working on something, but I'm not sure how I'm going to do it all. And so he told me, if you're going to work with schools, you need to make it educational. And like light bulb moment went off that I could take the training background that I had developed over the last several years and apply that to students, get students involved in streaming. And so that just has been the staple and just kind of mission and core to who we are is getting those students involved.
And that's great. And obviously with the momentum of what was happening with that project, how did then Class Intercom come about, and when did that come about?
Yeah, so just kept grinding with Striv, and just, I would email schools every time they're an opposing school that wasn't using our service. I would email their admin and just kind of develop relationship. Got all in on Twitter. Twitter got schools because of Twitter, which is funny. I'm gonna go on a rant here, or go birdwalk lots of different places. But I met the founder of Flipgrid, and I said, hey man, how'd you do it? He goes, I lived on Twitter 24/7. Like, that's how they built their community and their business. He said he set alarms at 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. He said his wife hated him because he would wake in the middle of the night to reply to tweets from people in Australia and overseas. And so I did not do that. I'm not going to try to say I did that, but I mean, I met Josh on Twitter, and then just kind of dove into the community just because I found out this is something I knew I was supposed to be doing. And so through that, we started doing workshops. And so I met Ben Pankinen. We're not sure exactly where we met, but I think Starbucks was involved at some place. We back then Foursquare.
That's another $1. That's another $1 right there that we got.
And Foursquare was really popular, and I think we were friends on Foursquare. And so I was the mayor. He was the mayor of Starbucks in York because he had gone to Colorado a couple times, and then I overtook it, and there was a battle going on. And so I'm at some conferences. I went to Lincoln. I tried to get to Lincoln a lot to meet with other startups and other founders and people that were trying to do the same thing as I was. And he had started with social assurance with Matt. About the same time we started Striv. And so we had a workshop in York, and I invited him to come out to talk to students about marketing and social media. And he got into a conversation with a group of gals from a school that we were working with that were super excited about creating social media content. And the whole conference is about social media. And he asked them, well, how are you doing that? And they pointed to their laptop with a sticky note on it, and it had the username and password to the school's Twitter account. And that was his light bulb moment of going, wow, we have a software that we've been working with banks that could possibly help with these schools to manage that and make it safe for students. And so he didn't tell me it right away that he came up with the name Class Intercom. And then he kind of asked me and said, hey, would you guys want to kind of joint venture and go in on this together with us? We've got the software, you've got relationships and education and that passion. And it made perfect sense in my mind. I had kind of been thinking about doing something in Strive just for schools to like tweet out their Strive link, but nothing like they had developed. And so I was all in right away. And that was in the spring of, that would have been 2016. When I invited him out to that. And so then we didn't like get it beta launched with schools until spring of 2017 when or winter of 2017. Officially, I think it was November 2016 is when we became Class Intercom officially. And so, and doing the same thing, just serving, connecting and using some of those same things. It's, I'm looking forward. It's a challenge because we're trying to do this across the country. And so it's been a lot of fun where Strive has just been focused in Nebraska. So
just a quick thought, because I know that a lot of what, when you talk to kids and when you kind of think through what Class Intercom provides, it does provide this opportunity to not only share content, but create content that can be shared. And I'm wondering, I don't know if you listen to the podcast, The Daily, that's done by New York Times, but they've had a couple of episodes recently that kind of talk about people utilizing social media, not necessarily to share hate, but they use kind of division as a way to actually monetize division. So it talks about this Facebook, this couple of people who started a Facebook, and their full business motto is, we just write the most divisive kinds of headlines and articles, and they're making, hundreds of thousands of dollars a month by kind of creating this content, whether it's actually true or fake content. But like, how important do you think it would be? Because those people obviously didn't grow up creating content in social spaces. I mean, the two people who are doing it were in their 40s, I think. How important do you think it is maybe for kids to have this opportunity to create content and to create good content and understand the pull that both good and negative kind of content creates? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why we started this was Ben was hiring interns that were working for him, extremely smart. Some have gone to, I think, work at Google and work for Crocs and do great things in marketing. And he would get them in and he'd teach them how to create content for banks, and they didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And then we were saying the same thing, that yeah, students know how to take a selfie, and we all think they know how to create social media content, but they really don't, and we don't either. And so why don't we join together and do this at the same time and learn together? And I think, Josh, you could definitely agree with that statement, that You're learning from students, they're learning from you, and it's a collaborative effort. And hopefully that results in the fruits of your labor, Josh, at Lewis Central with those students. I mean, I can't wait to see those kids go on to work for Bleacher Report or Front Office Sports, or a sports professional team or college or whatever. And thank you 10 years from now going, thank you for giving me a shot and an opportunity, which is exciting. And so, to your comment of these adults taking advantage of people online, I think, yeah, we're still all trying to figure this internet thing out, right? Like Gary Vee always talks about that. It's what? How old is the internet? Is it 20? Or is it's got to be more than 20, right? 30?
25.
Yeah,
early 90s.
Al Gore started it.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean, it's still young, right? And then with this, now it's created this whole nether monster. And so there's always going to be people taking advantage of the system or the game, right? But we just have to, as educators and ed tech companies and things like that, do as much as we possibly can to give kids opportunities to do it the quote unquote right way.
Right.
Which I don't know if we are or not, but we'll find out.
Yeah.
We'll keep learning.
I think, we've had the opportunity with our students who are creating to challenge them, as far as like what is good content. Because like you said, I've been challenged to make better content because of what these kids are putting out. It's amazing. And that's one of the things that the main intern that we have right now, he said, like, even in middle school, I was seeing all these other schools doing this great stuff and we weren't doing anything. And he's right. And so it's exciting to have that opportunity where I don't have to give them a sticky note and put it on their computer. And that makes everyone else a little more at ease. But the kids, the most important part of that is giving kids the opportunity to have a space where there is an invested audience, because I think that's the difference.
Yes.
Is that, if schools have a built-in advantage that we don't necessarily have to like convince people to like us. They want to be connected to, we have a population, we're not trying to sell a product per se. We have a school that we want to bring a community to. So we have an audience that is already excited about us. Kids don't have to, I think my intern has like, it's less than 1,000 followers, I think, or maybe it is 2,000. But I mean, it's just it's an engaged audience that they get to write content for and get feedback on it.
Well, and I think, Josh, we've talked a number of times about, the good content, well crafted, well created content is the driver for whatever metrics we're using, right? So the metrics that we oftentimes use are shares and likes and comments and all of those things. But the interesting thing is, I was listening to that podcast the other day, is the content that these people are creating is well crafted content, but it's content rooted in like negativity, and so they're able to kind of monetize that, even though it's well crafted content. And I think there's a weird line there. Like, how do we understand that well crafted content is what drives interaction? But what they're proving is that it can be well crafted content and it can be completely false. It can be just clickbait, and they're making making money hand over fist off of well crafted bad content, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll add. What just popped in my head when you were talking about that was, and Tim and Craig are heckling me on the comments here, which I highly encourage them. Craig just asked where my strings on my headphones were. Thanks. Dr. Tim Elmore talks about this, and this next generation having to be really on top of their moral compass and knowing what's the difference between something, that looks good, but is it? Yeah. And morally figuring that out, and it's really tough digitally to do that, right?
Right.
Because someone's hiding behind a screen or behind a keyboard, it makes it even harder for these kids. And I don't know the answer, like how we all have kids, right? And I see my kids on YouTube Kids, the app, and watching stuff, and I'm always kind of trying to look over their shoulder, like, this dude looks like he's 30 sitting in his mom's basement, and this stuff's getting on the YouTube Kids app, like, because he's playing a video game.
And he's opening a Hatchimal.
Yes, or something.
Come on, dude.
Now my boys are into Twin Toys. Like, that's their favorite show. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
I don't know that one.
I don't know either.
This dad, but I mean, it's good stuff, but you don't know who these people are, and like, do you trust them? But we've trusted PBS and Nickelodeon and all these big corporations with our shows and what we grew up on with Hey Arnold and Doug and all these shows that I watched, right? Saved by the Bell, who knows what subliminal messages they were sending us. So it feels different though, because it's so on demand and so in our face, right? And they can target us because they know our age and our all this data on us.
Right.
Yeah, I've often said the best and the worst thing about the internet is that anybody can create content.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and everybody can make it look good, which is great that everyone has that opportunity. But it's funny to watch. We just did a fake news, critical thinking activity with kids, with 7th graders, and it's just amazing. You know what they catch. You know, they don't really know what's good. They read something on Engadget, and I know that's a good source, but they're like, well, how do we know that? It's a good point. I don't know.
Right.
It's a true story, but you know, they're also the other thing they said was, well, what about Snopes? How do I know that Snopes isn't lying? It's fair. I mean, that's good. You know, you have to build that
trust.
Ask
questions. You got to ask questions. You asking that question is the start. If they don't even ask a question, then that's an issue in my mind. We talk about that a lot now, is being curious and asking lots of questions. And so I always encourage now my first grader to not be afraid of that, and tell kids that we work with too, like, that's how you find a good story too, when you're on the positive side of things, is getting to that get them to open up on that third why question.
Yeah. What are some of the things we've had you out to our school, kind of talking with our kids, you know, about some of these things and the changing landscape of media? But what are some of the big things that, you know, what are the conversations that you're having with kids, you know, as you're kind of out and about?
Yeah, sorry, Rob just tweeted me a picture, Saved by the Bell gif. I apologize. Hey, they're
subliminal.
They're listening. Yes. You know, I am no expert, but I am always trying to learn and to grow, and I think that's what people appreciate. And so, if you could ask me the question again, I was totally distracted there. What things I'm talking to students about when I go out?
Yeah, well, I can understand it, because it actually just popped up on my screen too. Mario Lopez and Jesse. Rob, you know, that's just kind of how this show rolls. We'll drop a Saved by the Bell every now and then. When you are out, you know, talking with kids and working with them, what are the questions they're asking, or what are some of the things that you're talking with them about?
Yeah, it's all over the place. You know, I like to talk about entrepreneurship and business now too. But you know, one of the things I talk about on the Class Intercom side now is trying to get them to understand how to create content, and that purposeful, meaningful content. And it is a struggle at some of these schools when they don't have a champion like maybe you, Josh, that's really giving them those creative ideas, right? And so I've tried to help them develop themes. And so Waverly is doing a great job at this. They've got some kids. They've got a yearbook class, and I've been in there a couple times, and it finally clicked. I said, you could have a post that you kind of have scheduled out. Maybe they're not doing game day stuff. They're not trying to be up on the current events thing. It's more kind of culture stuff. And so they're doing Monday motivation throwback. I tell every school I walk into now, you can have a Throwback Thursday post every week of the year. Go take your phone and snap a picture of your yearbook. And so now Siebert is doing that. Jill Johnson's doing that, and they're doing it in an engaging way, asking, hey, who is this? And then they're getting a ton of comments on Facebook from that. And so I'm trying to give them ideas based on what we're learning and creating content. So we launched a new website called NEBpreps.com. We have StrivSports.com, StriveU. We're creating a podcast Amber is doing, and so we're creating content. And then the reason we're doing that is so that I can give examples then to students about the things we're seeing. So, hey, use Headliner, is a great, audiogram app, and you can use it on your Chromebook. Anchor is a great, if you want to start doing podcasting in your school, it's really easy. Apple Clips, and just kind of giving them those things. And then everyone asks, hey, should I be using Adobe Premiere or iMovie or Final Cut? And it doesn't really matter. I used to be really concerned with teaching kids the tool. Well, now there's this great thing. I'd like to say this because Gary Vee does it. Like go to this website. It's called GOOG, and you can find anything you want, right? And kids already do that. Like Ben Mohorn on our team, who does video, like all self-taught. All because of YouTube, and Peter McKinnon and all these vloggers and people that are doing tutorials. Right. And so it doesn't matter what tool, like it's just about actually posting your work, which I think a lot of students struggle with.
Right. Yeah. I think you're right. I think it doesn't matter. You got to start somewhere, and it shouldn't be Adobe. Just don't start with Adobe, otherwise you'll never get out of there. And but you got to do it. Got to go somewhere. Go ahead, Devin.
Well, I was gonna try to change gears just a bit, just so we can. Typically, we ask. We have a lot of educators on, and we ask this question kind of about parenting and education because that was kind of the niche of the podcast. But to kind of alter that a bit, talk a little bit about your kids and how, when you had kids, how that changed maybe the way that you did the work that you do. We talk a lot about how being a parent has impacted us as educators and vice versa, how being educators for a long time kind of impacts us as parents. Not exactly the same for you, but talk about that transition that happens once you have, your first child and then subsequent kids after that too.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not a admin or in education, but I feel like I'm a coach. I have every Friday night, 4 or 5 nights a week, I'm still helping with support and stuff like that. So it's been a struggle, a battle in my mind. And thankfully my wife is, early on, it was, like, especially when I wasn't making any money, your wife questions you on that. And so I always tell people that too, that I didn't like quit a job. I was doing freelance and independent contractor stuff and just kind of side hustled this thing for a couple years before I could actually make it a full-time thing. And so that was a struggle. And then we had Beckett right when we started too. And so things become real there. And then you decide to have 2 more kids after that, just to keep the thing going, and thankful for that. And so we have Beckett, who's a first grader, Brock, who just started preschool, he's 3, and then we had Quinn, a little girl, in March. And so as they've gotten older, I would say a couple years ago, I was, and I travel a lot, and that's super hard, but I've really understood, hey, if I'm going to be going to do this thing, I need to make sure I allocate time and give that back to my family and to my wife as well. And kind of a give and take. Work-life balance is, impossible. Someone made that word up back in the 90s or something. I read an article in Medium about it. Like someone just, it's just really tough, right? And so I don't beat myself up about it. I struggle with it though. Like, am I choosing work over my family? And, but I'm an entrepreneur, and it's in my blood, and I want my boys to see how hard I worked to provide for them. And so my wife does a great job of instilling that in them as well. And she's able to stay home, which is very awesome. We're very fortunate to be able to be in that situation as well. But yeah, you just got to hack it, just like you guys, especially you coach basketball, Devin, and you got to figure out, hey, when are you going to find that time? Because I'm going to be gone all winter. And I don't remember, my dad always came home at 5, and worked in the same town. He didn't travel a lot. And so that's been hard for him to kind of see me have this different lifestyle. And that's been a struggle for us as he's kind of seen me, because he didn't do that. He was always there, and I'm not always there, but I'm making sure that my kids know what I'm doing. And so I started a vlog to kind of show them a little bit. And we're not perfect, but I'm trying my best. And the biggest thing I think, and again, another Gary Vee reference, is I can't beat myself up about it. I've chosen this life.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is my purpose, and I'm excited for my kids to, see that and learn from that and grow.
Right.
Well, Taylor, we do appreciate you being on the show. We have one more segment called Sharing is Caring, where you are able to share anything that you want. We'll give you a minute or two.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Do you want to go first?
I have 2 props. Yes.
Oh, all right. Well, hey, go right ahead.
Yes. So I am reading a book that I want to give a shout out to called Subscribed. And so I have a question for you guys. It's about this whole subscription.
Hold up. We're not prepared yet.
No, it's super easy. Super easy. Relax. I can see the sweat beating off your head, off your beard.
That's right. It's getting. Never mind. That was gonna come out way wrong. Continue.
It's about the subscription model, and like Adobe has gone that route, and all these apps that we use, and everything's gone subscription, and it's been huge for these businesses. They used to sell just a product one time a year, or and Apple still does that, even though you can subscribe to stuff for them too. So kind of as a deep dive into that, and it's just made me realize all these different things. And so I have a question for you. What are all the, besides like cable and utilities and things like that, what are like things like Netflix that you subscribe to? Can you name them all? Like on a monthly basis that come out?
Let's see. Apple Music,
Okay.
and Netflix, and Hulu. And I do one for watching golf, so the PGA Tour Live.
Oh, look at that. It's coming out.
Got that one. Oh, my wife, hopefully she doesn't watch this.
We're 91 episodes in. Why start now?
We had the GoPro subscription so that we could my daughter could record stuff. We could watch it on the computer.
Oh, wow. And Amazon?
Amazon. Yeah. Josh, what do you?
So that's like $500 a month right there. No, I'm just kidding.
Better not be.
Sometimes I'm accidentally subscribed to Just Dance for multiple months if I forget to turn that off.
Like you personally?
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's one Apple account. I mean, I don't do it.
Accidental subscription.
Yeah, I was pretty ticked about that. Didn't notice it. Amazon Music, because we do Amazon.
Yeah.
We used to do Apple Music. We actually don't do a lot. We don't do Netflix and Hulu anymore.
Oh, okay.
MLB TV, I do that. With college basketball season coming, as I was watching the ESPN app last night, ESPN Plus may be something that's coming, because there's a lot of basketball being played on ESPN Plus now that they've got rid of ESPN3. But
yeah,
that's
interesting.
It's fun to kind of look at that. I guess there's a couple apps that I subscribe to, but we did ditch cable. I'm not going to tell you how we get our cable channels right now because this is recorded. So
YouTube TV.
My free trial's up with them.
Are you hacking the system?
Let's move on. This is my podcast, not yours.
How many email accounts do you have?
I do have a number of Google accounts. Maybe I should. I might have to use those again when. But we've had that conversation. People cut cable, but then all of a sudden you're like, well, $40 for YouTube TV, or and then I don't know how much it is a month for MLB, but if you want that, then that's another $100 a year. And oh well, we got to have HBO, so that's another $10 a month. And
But see,
I mean, you're right back up there with cable.
well, and I think that's true, but I think what happens is you feel like you have much more ownership over it if you're able to select, right?
Yeah.
So cable is just like, oh, I can pay for all these packages, and maybe I don't feel like I'm selecting, but I do feel like when I'm doing, I can choose. The PGA Tour Live thing is a good one for me. I mean, I can choose to get that and pay the $5 a month or whatever and just watch that thing. Like, I don't have to buy a package on a cable, one of the cable packages that might include that. I can just select that one thing.
That's the future, I think.
Yeah, right.
We can a la carte it.
Yeah.
Okay, and I gotta give a quick shout out. I found these Beckett magazines, and then Craig Badura texts me, goes, I have first edition with Michael Jordan on it. Thanks, dude. That ruined my night.
He would. What a Debbie Downer.
He is.
To go back to that subscription thing, that to me right now, that is one of the more fascinating things for me to watch. Like how this has all evolved. Because you're right. Like, we can pick and choose what it is, but the subscription model, and you know this, I mean, it's huge. Everybody does it. I mean, that's how people make money.
Right.
Yes.
Explain in the education world, Explain Everything and Breakout are two classic examples of they put out a fantastic product, and then after a couple of years they quit making money. And Breakout was sooner than that because everybody figured out how to hack the system.
Right.
And so now they've transitioned, and that has totally tanked some companies that have tried that. Glogster was a fabulous website until they changed their pricing model.
That's right.
And they tried the subscription model before it was popular, before this was the thing to do. And so everybody, like, it just, and their product started suffering, and it was terrible. Now, Explain Everything went subscription, straight subscription with no free tier until like a month ago, because no one was buying in. And so it really, to me, in all seriousness, it is one of the more fascinating things for me to read about.
You should get this book. I'll send it to you because it's you would like it. I absolutely, I just was at Barnes and Noble and stumbled across him like, oh man, I want to read it. It is, and the Adobe story is on a whole nother level, like billions of dollars because of their switch going to the cloud, and it's crazy.
All right. I'll have to read
Fabulous. All right. Hey,
Thank you,
good
guys.
stuff. Way to lead off well. That was a good lead off. I am going to go so not serious as usual. I tend to not be the professional one in the crew. Friend of the show, former guest Dave Guyman, who's no longer in education. If he like went to code school like a week after he was on the program. He didn't tell us about it. Maybe it wasn't that soon, but anyway, Dave Guyman has started a new Instagram and Twitter account called Names Not Hungry. It is a total like dad joke machine. Like, that's all he puts out is like stupid dad jokes. Again, I think we had this conversation last time. I find them too funny. A little typical about it, but check it. I am going to tweet out on the hashtag Dave's new venture. So be sure to follow that on either Twitter or Instagram. Devin?
Nice. I'll go a little more serious. Next Tuesday is election day, and I think that's really important regardless of what where your views might lie. I think it's important for people to get out and vote. So I'm just going to send the link, and I'm sure everybody knows where their voting location is, but I'm going to send the website that allows you to put in your address to make sure you know where you have to go to vote next Tuesday. I do think it's vitally important. Again, regardless of your political view, it's important to get out and be an active citizen and help make decisions in your local communities as well as across the country. So I'm just going to send that out from vote.org and make sure people get out and vote next Tuesday.
Fabulous. Do we need to check in on what? Tim's talking about Striv. Oh, and Fortnite. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Striv is a huge subscription. Crunches our budget every year.
Oh, Tim, you're making my face red.
Tim, he'll bring you a Starbucks next time he comes up.
Yeah, right. I'll give you a lanyard.
and a sticker. And a sticker.
Yes.
All
Maybe
right.
sunglasses. Thanks. Thanks, guys.
Do you have any socks left? You can take him up some socks.
He already has a pair, so
okay.
He's good for a couple years.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back to our normally scheduled Wednesday live show in a couple weeks. Taylor, we cannot thank you enough for being on the show tonight. We appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks, guys. That was a blast.